Hey YouTube, so I am back as promised to share information about what to actually expect during the lock journey. Now, my previous video was more focused on things to really know and to think about before you start the lock journey. So this is going to be a video for people who have already taken the plunge, right? You're already in the thick of things, and just to hopefully shed a little light on some things that maybe you feel like, wow, why am I experiencing this? And they're actually normal, or maybe give you a little information that may make your journey easier, okay? So I actually jotted everything down so we can stay organized, right? And not be jumping all over the place. So I have basically 7 things that are pretty important to know while you're in the lock journey. And obviously this will not be a totally complete list. So if you guys have any other things that you think people should know, feel free to drop them down in the comment section, okay? Alright, so the first thing to know during the lock journey is that your hair is going to grow, but it grows differently than it does with loose natural hair, okay? So with loose natural hair or relaxed hair, your hair generally just will grow out, grow down, and that's it. You know, it's very basic, right? But with the locks, your locks, they first have to go through a process of shrinkage, okay? So that shrinkage is happening because your locks are actually, they're locking, you know, but they have to become more condensed and more compact in order to form the lock. And that's gonna take a lot of the length of your hair. Not only if you're like me, where you start with a lot of hair, as well as initially all the hair that's growing in is helping to form the locks. And it's not until your locks are really fully formed that you'll truly start to see the length, and that when your hair grows, it's pretty much just growing straight, kind of out and down, instead of like out, condense, right? So that's important to know. So even though you may have shrinkage, or you may feel like, you know, you're not making progress, just remember that, you know, your hair is in the locking process, right? So that may be why you're not seeing a lot of length right away, okay? So the second thing to know is that for the first year, probably year and a half, you've got to understand that you are going to have some struggles at your roots, okay? Now this is primarily speaking to people who are self-maintaining their locks, but I suppose the same could occur if you go to the salon. But knowing that if you plan on doing any type of maintenance, that the process of separating your locks is going to be difficult at first, right? It could be everything from marrying to your, you know, parts just not being as perfect as you want them to be. And a lot of it depends on what type of journey you're having versus whether you're freeform, you know, the occasion like a semi-freeform. Do you want yours to be perfect all the time, you know, for whatever reason? And just understanding that for the first year, year and a half-ish, it's going to be that way. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing anything wrong. However, there are different tips and things that you can do to decrease the difficulty that you're having. And if you're interested, I can definitely make a separate video on how to decrease the pain, headache, and heartache that comes with marrying at the roots, right? So I can make a video for that if y'all are interested. But just knowing that's part of the process, okay? And that there's nothing wrong with you if that's happening, right? We just don't want it to go to the point to where you're tearing your hair, okay? All right, number 3. Really, during the locking process, once you get deep in, you come to the conclusion that locks are different from loose natural hair, okay? And it seems like it'd be something that's very basic, but at least for me, it was not. I had to really learn that the total composition of my hair had changed. Now, it's still hair, it still requires a lot of the same things, but the total, like, kind of structure of my hair and its needs had adjusted, you know? A lot of the same products, especially with products, that was the hardest lesson to learn, was that a lot of the products that worked on my loose natural hair would not work on my locked hair, at least in the same form and quantities. Like, my loose natural hair loved shea butter. Like, they was best friends, you know what I'm saying? But on my locks, I just can't do that. It's too heavy, and I'm not willing to risk build up to do that, right? So if anything, it's once you come to terms with the fact that your hair is going to be different and not everything's going to work the same, it allows you to start experimenting, to start getting creative, whether it be diluting conditioners and doing different things like that, and finding what works best for your locked hair, right? So that you can have long-term the best set of locks, whether they're long or short. You don't want them to be heavy or breaking off because of product buildup, okay? So, number 4. Oh wait, back to number 3 though. It's also learning the difference when it comes to leaving your hair wet. You cannot leave your locks wet, okay? That's just not, you know, you'll risk mildew. It's just not a good thing. So that's another way that they're different. All right. Number 4, just understanding the kind of patterns or the steps that your locks are going to go through, okay? So first, there's kind of just the starter lock stage where your hair pretty much looks exactly how it looked when you started it, okay? So maybe your hair still looks like 2-strand twists, it still looks like braids, it still looks like comb coils, whatever. This is usually just like right before your first wash or the first couple of washes, you know, your hair hasn't really changed much. Then it goes into kind of that baby lock stage where, you know, your hair's starting to fuzz up a little bit, right? It's definitely starting to look like you need it to be redone. But reality is there is a process, but to the outside person who doesn't know any better, it just looks like your hair is all fuzzy and needs to be done, okay? Of course, you go into the teenage stage, right, where your hair is starting to really puff up and be really fluffy. I would go back to like my 18-month video. I'll try to put a card here for you all. That is a good example of how your hair puffs up so much, right? And it's a part of the process, you know. Your hair starts to be very rebellious and everything, just kind of doing what it wants, not really laying down perfectly. And then of course later on, when your hair matures, as I mentioned in the previous video, it condenses to be the appropriate size in relation to your parts, okay? So understanding that process will help you realize that your hair is on the right track, as well as understanding, okay, where is my hair at in this process, you know? And also understanding that, you know, depending on the length of your hair, that will also dictate when you enter certain stages. Like for me, I had so much hair when I started my locks that, like I said, I really wasn't entering the teenage stage for real until I was like 18 months, right? So being prepared for that, okay? Number 5 is styling options, okay? So obviously the longer your hair gets, the more styling options you will have, right? And you begin to understand what kind of styles work for your locks and what kind of styles don't, right? Some people vibe more with braids, some people more with twists, right? Just understanding what works best for your hair. But of course, the main thing you understand when you have been in the, you know, lock journey for a while is that tension is not worth it, right? So whatever the style is, it needs to be something that's not pulling on your edges and allows you to, you know, still have your locks healthy and intact, okay? Number 6 is moisture and monitoring are essential, okay? Once you're deep in your lock journey, understanding that the moisture balance is necessary is part of that kind of rite of passage, right? When you understand that more than anything, your hair has to be moisturized, more than retwisting, more than, you know, trimming, more than shampooing. Not saying those other things aren't important, but your hair has to be moisturized if you are going to not only grow your locks out, but retain the length, right, and keep them healthy. Now with that, monitoring does not mean maintenance, right? Monitoring does not mean that you have to retwist, but what it means is that you have to constantly check your hair, even if it's just once a week, once a month, right? To check your hair, check your roots, check your edges, you know, check the length of your locks, you know, check the scent of them. You know, do they smell? Have you been leaving them wet too long, right? Just really keeping an eye out on your hair, paying attention, even if you need to take pictures or whatever to do that, to make sure that your hair is headed in the right direction so you can take whatever supportive measures are necessary to fix it and make your hair healthy, okay? And the last part, or the last thing to know during your journey is that your locks are unique. As you get further along, you begin to understand that your locks are not going to look like anybody else's, you know, because your parts are not like anybody else's, right? Your hair texture, the density of your hair, right? The history of your hair, whether your hair is color treated or not, is not going to be exactly like anybody else's. And the sooner that you accept the unique nature of your locks, you can focus more on the health of your hair. And that is what's going to lead to thriving and you being successful in your lock journey, okay? So that's pretty much all I had for this video. If you have any additional tips or things that people should know during the lock journey, please feel free to comment them below. And like I said before, if you guys have any video requests or anything you would like to see, please let me know, because I'm more than open to doing different things for you. Like I said, my next video should be me trimming my locks, and I'll make sure I record the process for you to show you what that looks like. And until next time, guys, peace.